friends. I hope you guys are all doing well. I'm Prairie Vintage. My name's Linda. I'm an energy intuitive reader here on YouTube, and I use spirit, my intuition, and the tarot to communicate energies to you guys, amazing viewers. So blessed to be here. I love you guys very much. If you're new to this channel, welcome. And if you are returning, welcome, welcome. I'm so grateful to be here communicating with you guys again. So I wanted to put out a video in regards to suffering and ego, because a lot of my readings come through with messages from the divine in regards to transcending past suffering and ego. And so there's a lot of misconception when it comes to ego and how this could put you in a position of suffering. And so I put a lot of videos out in regards to connection, relationships, and that's how most of you guys most likely find me. And we can be in connection with individuals that could create suffering, but we are in relationship with everything and everyone, okay, at some level. And so relationship is the way we interact, and what we see out there is always a mirror reflection of what's going on the inside. So it's our perception and our projections that is what we're experiencing. And so a lot of times we'll get the rebuttal that, well, this, let's say this rock exists, whether I'm looking at it or not looking at it, this rock is existing. Now, that is reality. The rock is a rock is a rock, okay, whether you're looking at it or not looking at it, but your engagement with this rock, your view of the rock is going to be created by what it is you project on said rock. So if you look at this rock full of fear, then this rock could become a big scary boulder that's going to come and roll into you. Okay, if you look at this rock as construction material that one can use as shelter or protection or of sorts, then you project onto this rock as something that has value. So it's really how you perceive your outside world, okay, that's going to create your level of happiness or your level of suffering or what it is you're experiencing, okay? But reality is reality. Reality doesn't care what your beliefs are. Reality doesn't care about your experiences. Reality is impartial, and reality is God's universe, okay? And so God is one power, none else, one power. There are no two separate powers. There's no good God, bad God. There's just God, the creator of all, okay? And so God creates all, and reality is. Reality is as it is. There is no bad reality and good reality. There is just reality and what it is that we attribute to the said reality. And so this doesn't mean that we don't experience suffering and that there aren't things in the world that create pain and so on and so forth. Because we always hear like, okay, well, you know, if you murder someone, how could that be God's universe? How could that be just, you know, or good when it's clearly evil or sinful or bad? And the answer is God's created a universe in which we experience duality in order for us to be able to use our free will and conscious choice to make decisions that align us closer to God. The only way for us to identify God is for us to experience contrast. So in a universe where, let's say, there's only one sun and it's externally outputting light, and there's nothing else but this light would cease to know itself, and it would just be light, and it would not have contrast to know anything other than it being light. So it wouldn't exist. There's nothing else to contrast but up against it. So light becomes a thing when there is darkness, and darkness is like a shadow. It's the absence of light. It's not a thing. It's an illusion. It's a void of light. Okay, so this is the same thing like when we experience sin or murder. In that example I gave, bad would be this shadow, this darkness. And so this darkness exists because it is the absence of the light, although there is no substance, and therefore it is an illusion. It is not real. It's not reality. It is merely that shadow casted, okay, because the light isn't in that space, okay, but there's nothing real there. There's no entity there, okay. So in God's universe, God creates light, God creates love, God is love. And so God is creating all his creations. And so as humans, we have what is called our mind, and our mind is projecting all sorts of things onto our experience. And so when we're ill in the mind, okay, when we're heavy in illusion, when we're casting a lot of projections based on ego, we are creating this world of suffering or bad, okay? And so this isn't God creating the bad or the suffering. This is us experiencing our own projection. And we have the power within ourselves to shift our mind and get ourselves out of any perception that we might have, and to switch our perception from that which is what we're experiencing and seeing to that in which is more aligned with reality, okay, with God's reality. And so we'll experience what we're experiencing, but it is up to us to sort of attribute and infuse that experience with what it is that we would like to experience. Now, this is where it becomes a challenge, because, like I say, most people find me when they're suffering, you know, in connection, and they're suffering because there's an intense desire within them to attain someone or some experience or something that is out there, okay? And so this projection of something out there, someone out there, would imply that whatever is out there I do not have within me. It is missing within me. It is something that I must seek, and I must attain it, and I must hang on to it, or make it sort of part of my world so I could become whole. And so this is a thought that we need to eradicate, because the need of an external thing and this desire is the root cause of all your suffering. And so we can say, you know, I have a feeling, and I can't refuse this feeling that comes upon me of this desire, this intense need for something. And so we're not trying to suppress the fact that we have a feeling or an urge or a desire within us, okay? But this feeling and this urge and this desire that is sitting there is stemmed from, and it's generated from, a thought, because the thought precedes the feeling, okay? And so we need to correct our thoughts in order for the feelings to shift. And so if we are in program mode and our thoughts are sort of happening to us, controlling us, our feelings are infusing these thoughts, and we feel it and we believe it, okay? And so therefore we start to seek external whatever it is we feel we're missing. Now, if we were to understand that this is a skewed way of thinking, that we are not incomplete, that we are not separate, that we are all one, that we already have everything within ourselves, because we are God manifest through an extension of God. Okay, so there is the creator. We're not the creator itself, but we're an extension of the creator. And so whatever is within the creator is within you. Okay, it's not missing anything. It is the universe in its full capacity, and the universe is God, which is love. And so just as you are created by God, same with a grain of sand, just like anything in this universe you can pick up and look at, okay? But all of God is within that creation. Now, there's different levels of consciousness, okay, within these, you know, a level of, let's say a grain of sand and an animal and a human. These are like 3 levels of consciousness, okay? So when we're looking at a grain of sand, we could say that it has all of God, all of the universe within it, okay, because God is omnipresent. It is everywhere at once. So if it's not in the grain of sand, then it cannot, God is not everywhere. And we know God is omnipresent, so it is in the grain of sand. Okay, but the grain of sand doesn't recognize it's a grain of sand, nor does the grain of sand have any level of consciousness above and beyond it just being, a grain of sand. And so then an animal would have a higher level of, let's say, consciousness than a grain of sand, because it's sort of aware of danger, and it's reactionary, and it has animal instinct, which a sand does not. And so humans are above the animal instinct, which we can perceive into the future. We can go back and look at the past, and we can identify that we are existing and look at ourselves, which a dog or an animal cannot do. Okay, and so this is a higher level of consciousness. And so consciousness exists in different levels, stages. Okay, and so as a species, we're evolving, and we're evolving from, this is basic sort of egoic state of consciousness to a more elevated state of consciousness, where we're no longer sort of in this fight or flight mode of ego, where we were needing it to survive, and so the ego only knows of survival, and survival at all costs. And so what this looks like is, I desire, I need, in order for me to exist, or else I could be eradicated. Okay, so back in the day, we could easily become extinct. And so there's a strong urge for me to attain, and it's a very intense, because again, my survival depends on this thing that I must attain to become whole, or to be to survive, to maintain my life. And so you need it, as you do oxygen. Okay, and then the ego knows the second way, which is to avoid and suppress and deny, and have all sorts of aversions to things it does not like, because it feels threatened. So I do not like danger, and I'll run. I do not like things that could create my demise. And so there's this need to attach, seek, and chase, and avoid, and suppress, and have aversion to stuff. And so these are the two ways of the ego. And so this is why society is very tired. Okay, very tired, because they are not at peace. They are not getting centered with their Christ nature, that they are whole and complete without any external sort of need to attain anything. And there is no need to deny or avoid anything in God's universe, because everything is as it should be. And so if things are unjust, the only judge that can understand if something's unjust is God the Creator. And so we cannot attribute what is just and what is unjust based on our understanding of our mind, because when we see something, we're getting this snapshot. Okay, and so energy is ongoing, whether it is in this lifetime or it's reincarnated many times over. And so we see a snapshot of an energy body, maybe having like an experience, but we don't know what's happened and passing with this energy. And so this energy, okay, in many lifetimes could have accumulated a lot of karma. And so the universe will know how to balance itself out with energy. We don't need to concern ourselves with balancing energy, okay? And just like the laws of anything in the universe, the laws of balancing out energy are, you can't dispute it. Okay, it's the law of energy. It balances out. And so we cannot attribute what is fair, what is good, what is bad. We gotta know that the universe is in perfect order, creating balance. And so what we see as unjust, or what we see as something, and we can project our own ideas and get into battles of what is right and wrong, and we are not God. Okay, we're an extension of God, and we could have our own perceptions. But the minute we realize that we are coming with our own ideas into something, it is just a perception. And so everyone is valid. There is truth from every perception. Every perception on the universe is true to that degree in which they're perceiving. Okay, but there's only one truth, and that one truth is reality. Everything else is illusion. It does not exist. No matter how much we believe in it or feel in it, it doesn't exist. And so back to that a desire. Okay, so we have to identify when we are desiring something, it's because we're already in the ego. We've already had the thought that allowed our feelings to sort of build. Okay, and so to undo these thoughts so that the feeling can follow suit, we have to be very conscious. Okay, and like I mentioned, there's different levels of consciousness, and so as you become more aware of certain things, more conscious, okay, that's what conscious means, we're aware. Okay, that's what enlightenment is you have a certain awareness, a certain light that you're casting on whatever said topic or whatever said situation or experience. And so with that awareness, with that enlightenment, you're able to shift your perspective. Okay, and this is why enlightenment brings peace, because when you shift your perspective, you know, your feelings follow suit, and so any anxiety would subside, or any desire or anything that is intense could then be sort of watered down. Now you have to believe it, not to just think it. Okay, because if I say to you, and you know that it's not true, if I say, well, the sky is purple, you know, you're gonna say, okay, if I say the sky's purple, the sky's purple, the sky's purple many times, I'm gonna feel better. No, you have to believe. You know, you have to believe that the sky is purple, not to just say it however many times. And so this is where we have a challenge, is because we believe that we need ego, and we believe that we need to attain something in order to be whole and complete. And so where's this belief coming from? Okay, this is the mind. This is the insane mind. This is the mind of egoic belief that needs to be questioned. And so through meditation, through questioning, and through observation, we can see what's actually reality. Okay, but we need to be willing to step beyond our fear, because all our life we're told how to think, and what we are able to do, and what we should do, and what's bad or what's good. And so to seek within self could be bad, you know, especially if you're ascribed to a religion or something like this, or you I don't know, read somewhere that it was tied to the occult or something that is just put in a belief in your mind. Okay, and so we have to be willing to attain as much information so that we can become our own sort of seeker of peace. Okay, and the irony of that is that none of that information and none of that out there is going to reveal to you what's already there within you. Okay, and so this is why I say you're not going to find the answer in that next guru or that next YouTube video or that next whatever. It's not out there for you to seek. Yes, you can get all this knowledge, but it's like reading from a book, but never integrating any of the practices or the lessons. And so out there is a lot of information that you can find common threads. You know, in all religion there's common threads, you know, but religion likes to instill fear in, don't you know, investigate any further than this. And why not? Because if you investigate further than that, you might find the answer to what you're looking for, which is something within you that they cannot give to you. And so you're no longer dependent on that religion or that outside source. And so as we align closer to the truth, we find within ourselves this in which frees us. Okay, this in which we no longer are in a state of desire and aversion and running away and chasing. We are able to be in the present moment, completely at peace, and it is not an external source that's dictating what it is that we should do or shouldn't do. And this is very freeing, but it's also very scary to outside world of people who might try to control you. Okay, and so it's not bad. It's everybody has their archetype in this world. Everyone has their archetype. So there's going to be people who are ignorant, who are spiritually infants still, and they have to go through whatever they're going through. You know, the universe knows the journey of whoever is in the darkness. And this doesn't mean we allow, you know, we allow tyranny and we allow, you know, darkness to reign. No, the truth doesn't need to be defended in any way, but we need to be able to stand in truth, and the truth is the closest thing to reality. And so to speak of truth and to stand in truth is to be in the present moment, void of ego, void of perceptions and experiences. And so because we always carry a filter of perception, we can never be completely close to reality, as it is. And so our job is to really observe without any sort of judgments. And so this is why it's very important to be in the present moment and to do self-observation, to always be removed from the mind so we can see how our mind is in action. And the more we lean into that energy, the inertia of the mind starts to slow down, and the feelings that go with that start to slow down. And then the belief starts to build within yourself because you start to experience the reality as it is. And so once you experience reality as it is, you don't want to go back to illusion, and this is the power of belief, because like I said before, you cannot just rely on the sky is purple, say it enough and I believe it, right? But if you experience a purple sky, I could tell you it's green, I could tell you it's blue, I could tell you anything, you're going to stand behind the purple sky that you experienced. And so the experience itself, when it's experienced through a higher level of consciousness, when it's observed in the closest to reality, it's very powerful. It gives us belief, so we can either believe in the illusion or we could believe in the closest thing to reality. And that would be our truth. And so do we want to live in ignorance and illusion with full belief and conviction and believe it very intensely? Or do we want to be objective and let reality sort of unfold and become in the dance with the universe and have an experience and be able to use this as a way for us to engage, and so since every present moment is completely new, is not tied to the past, it is always different. And so we can't infuse any future moment with an experience of the past. We can't infuse this present moment with any experience of the past, because what we're doing then is we're bringing an illusion to our present moment, and we're projecting illusion to a distant future. And so to be in the present moment is to experience everything as it is, as close to reality as you possibly can. Okay, and so it takes practice, because this is years and possibly lifetimes of living with an egoic construct or belief that has been built up and generated over a long period of time. And so if you're wanting to break free from suffering, we have to identify our relationship with our mind, and so when we are so close to the mind, when we are in the prison of the mind, we don't even realize we're in the mind. And so we use the mind in order to make decisions, and use the mind in order to understand what consciousness is. And we use the mind in order to try to change any of these sort of past ways of engagement, but we're still in the mind. And so this is the difficult part to explain to anyone who hasn't experienced breaking from the mind into a higher state of consciousness. It's you are not your mind. And so when you meditate, you become aware of the mind's presence, and you become aware of the mind's thoughts. And so these obsessive thoughts, that desire, I want to seek that car, I want that promotion, that thing that's in the mind that keeps repeating, it's constantly there. It'll be constantly there. You can't use the same level of thought in order to break free from that thought that was there in the first place. So we can't use the mind to eradicate the mind. We can't use ego to get rid of ego. Okay, so what we're being asked to do is to, and asked by the Creator, in order for us to come back home, in order for us to ascend, in order for us to become, enlightened beings at a higher level of consciousness. So we're not murdering each other, and we're not staying in a stuck evolution. We want to be enlightened beings here and bring love to the world. Okay, and like I say, there's the shadow and there's light, and both are needed. Okay, so not everyone's on this journey of love and light, and love and light isn't positive toxicity. Okay, it's about actually going through the darkness and sitting with the mind, and so we have to rise above the mind in order to get out of the mind. And so there isn't really a doing so much as a being. When you are in a state of meditation or you are rising above the mind, you are being, okay, but you're observing your mind coming in with these thoughts, and these thoughts come and they go. And when you observe the thoughts coming and going, you're not attaching to it, you're not getting lost in the stories, you're not believing in the story, you're observing it, and you're not resisting it, saying, oh, here comes a thought, I'm supposed to have no thought, no mind. No, then you're resisting. Okay, so you let your mind have its thought, you let your mind do its thing, but you are removed from it, and you're not, like I say, chasing in that story and adding more belief to it. And so as you sit there and you practice this, that mind story starts to lose weight. And as it loses weight, it's the ego dying off, because it knows it no longer has control over you. And so it's going to try to do another song and dance. It's going to try to give you a different thought that's more powerful, so that you can keep this ego alive, because you need it to survive. This is the ego's mind thought, but you don't need it to survive. And it's going to do what it can to sort of keep itself alive. And so we need to rise above these thoughts, okay? And so once we experience above the thought, we now have reached this place, and we've touched this being. This is the I am state of being, and you now experience what that is. Something that no one can tell you in a book what that is, but we could point to that place in which you can find it or experience that being. And once you do, it could be just a small little glimpse of this, a little glimpse of freedom, a little glimpse of above the mind. And so then you have hope, then you have belief, you can conquer over this suffering. And so a lot of times it is those of us who are in a deep state of suffering, suffering of the mind, suffering, or who have been touched by the creator, to have this path and this experience in order for us to transcend and move beyond this level of suffering. And so it is there for everyone. And so I wanted to put this video together because I get a lot of questions in regards to how do I, break free from this suffering. And this is the answer. This is the keys to the kingdom here. But we don't want to do the work, or we want to hang on to the desire. So we really have to be ready, ready to walk that path, or we've had enough of suffering. We have to crave and desire and devote and commit ourselves to shifting that in which we are accustomed to. And that takes a lot of courage. That takes a lot of strength, and it takes a lot of persistence. And so it's easy to fall back into egoic ways and to get back into the mind story if it's been a pattern over time. But this way of being just creates more suffering in our world. And so the only way to free yourself is to continue to free yourself of your mind and your desires and your challenges out there, which what you perceive as a challenge, and be an observer with no thought, without casting any sort of judgment. Now, the misconception is that you are this robotic being with no desire and no nothing, and actually it's far from the truth. You're actually living in the present moment with pure reaction, and this reaction isn't a reaction that's based from trauma and based from projections and based from past experience. The reaction is very responsive. It comes from the heart. It's very pure. And so it is very authentic and very genuine. It is the same action that would, like rescue a child that's about to be hit by a bus. We don't sit there and ponder and think, should I run over there? Am I going to be late for work? We just act. We just act. And so we create more space and consciousness when we shed ego, when we detach from the mind. And so this state of reaction that is based on pure present moment, it becomes within us. It fills us. And so we enjoy that present moment with our authentic being. We could respond and engage in a more authentic way to that moment and experience that moment as it is, not as we wish it to be or what we project it is with illusion. Okay, and so a lot of times we think our situation is worse off than it is if we're in a state of suffering. And the reality is the only challenge is that in which you're perceiving it to be. You know, there is no person out there running away from you. There is no one there that you're going to attain to bring you to fulfillment, to, that you can then sleep better, feel better about yourself. Okay, this is your own twisted perception of something. And so we have to really, really question, where is this mind story coming from and its validity, because it is not true. And just because you don't believe it in the moment doesn't make it not true. The truth is the truth, whether we believe in it or not. And so we are divine beings, whole and complete. We are all connected. Okay, anything that is creating duality here is the belief in separation. Now, I am separate from that person, and so the minute we start to project separation, we're already in illusion. We're already in ego. And so this is why there is so much suffering. You know, we're reflecting out there is something that is independent of us, when it is far from the truth. We are all one under the Creator, okay? But it needs to be experienced in order for it to have the buy-in and the belief, so that the feeling could come through with it. And it comes over time. You know, you're not going to switch like this. And so it takes practice, and it takes just certain things clicking for you, you know. But if you start to fall back into old patterns and ways and give into that, you're going to experience more of that in which you experience, which is the obsessive thoughts and the mind controlling your emotions and your feelings. And that's not fun. You know, that isn't fun. And you've already done this, and you've got what you got. And you repeat suffering. And so this is a better way. Love's way is better. Love's way is reality. Everything else is suffering and illusion. It doesn't exist. It is a shadow. It is darkness. It is ignorance of God. It is ignorance of the light. It is nothing but the absence of light and love. And so once we realize this, we cast light in these dark places. And it takes a lot of effort at first, like I said, but all it takes is that mustard seed for it to grow. And then the love has roots that can really change your whole world, your whole perspective, and your whole engagement. You know, because the universe is abundant and happening only right now. Only right now is it happening. Everything at once is happening. Okay. And if we know that God is omnipresent, okay, it is happening, and there is no limitation, then we know that the only limitation that we perceive is that we're creating. And so how could there be a limited thing, you know? And you could say, well, right here in front of me, I don't have all these things on my lap. Well, you can't fit infinity on your lap. You know, these are frequencies of energy that are happening all at once. You can shift your energy frequency, what you're experiencing. And this is what's called jumping timelines, you know, because there is no such thing as time. There's just energy frequency and different densities, which has been proven, you know, by metaphysics and science. And so here we are experiencing whatever it is that we can, and every experience is really there for you to experience. It's up to you. You know, it's certainly up to you, but you can change back your frequency into the old belief and say, see, it's not happening. See, I'm not experiencing it. And it's like, well, that's because at the core, you're still believing in the old version. Your channel is still set to that old version. And so just like a radio signal, if it's set to that channel, you know, it might become difficult for you to change your frequency, to know that is set in one frequency, you know, of energy and one sort of thought pattern that's really driving your beliefs, and have been for a long time. It's not easy to change belief. In fact, people get very threatened, you know, because if you question a belief, their whole world can fall apart. Their belief gives them life. And this is why an ego death feels very painful. And so back to, you know, how a lot of you guys find me. You're going through ego death. You're realizing that there is this great suffering out there when we try to attach ourselves to something that is external to us, and so it feels like a death. And so this experience is the false self falling away, the ego falling away, because it is not true. And so when we pose questions that others find threatening, they might get very defensive and they want to argue because they need to upkeep their illusion. They don't want their illusion to fall. And so it becomes very threatening. Okay, but the truth stands on its own. It doesn't need defending. And so this is why we don't have to go argue with someone. We don't have to justify anything, and we don't have to understand the path in which they're on that it needs to make sense to us. Their path is their path. And so we might see somebody sort of what appears to be going backwards when it comes to ascending or getting closer to God, but they're on the path nonetheless, because how many stories have you heard of someone having to hit rock bottom in order to change their life around, or be negatively influenced in order for there to be shifts? And so had that not happened, that person could have still, stayed sort of unconscious and in the dark. So everything is happening perfectly in the just universe, exactly as God willed it to be, no matter how we perceive it. And so these things that we could project as bad, or this person is not doing what they should be doing, is just a judgment, cast. And so allow people to have their experiences. And now this doesn't mean we let murderers murder and rapists rape and all this, because sometimes people ask this question. And it's no, we still have the consequences of our action, because like I said, energy balances itself. And so anything you put out into the world is going to come back to you, but we are to the dictators of what sort of justice looks like. Okay, this is karma. This is balancing with the universe. And so there is only sending true love and seeing beyond someone's ignorance, seeing beyond the shadow, seeing beyond the darkness, because there is a light in there. We all carry the light of Christ, whether you want to say, well, I've seen pure evil, I've seen pure evil. Remember what I said about perception, and it has to stem from within us, and judgment has to come through us in order for us to give it. And so we experience that judgment as we give it out. And so here's the karma, every time I'm hanging on to anger or resentment, I'm carrying this around. And so this is what's meant by the law of reciprocity. It's like I carry around that pain in which it is that I'm projecting out there to my whoever's I felt created some unjust thing in my world. And so carrying resentments and judgments, it hurts no one but yourself. And to see past someone's darkness or someone's ignorance in order to understand that there is love and light behind that has been so far compacted with a lot of darkness, and that individual unfortunately is not seeing their own divinity. And this is why when we arise, when we awaken, we are an example of that, in which others can see their own divinity. It's the perfect mirror, but when we cast judgment, you're bad, what you're doing is not good, it's reinforcing that illusion. So we don't need to reinforce illusion, because it means we're giving it life. We're saying, I believe in your illusion, I believe in the things that you're doing. It's like, no, those are illusions. You're in an insane sort of living state, believing in illusions. I'm going to feed the reality, and the reality is your love light. You're not acting in love light, and you might be in shadow, and you might be ignorant. And so I see the love light in you. Doesn't mean I approve of the things that you're doing, but I understand that you're in ignorance, and I understand that you're on a journey here, and so we have to extend love to each other. And so this video is really about changing perception and really identifying why you're suffering. There's no need to go chasing anything out there. And the more inner reflection you do, the more you'll begin to believe in the freedom you could create, and the peace you could create, and the liberation from suffering that you could create and generate from within. There's nothing out there that's going to save you. There's no amount of tarot readings. There's no amount of crystals. There's no amount of videos you're going to watch that's going to free you at all. You know, in fact, I say get rid of it all. Get rid of it all. I challenge you to sit with yourself, you know, however you meditate, to reflect, to continuously revisit that, you know, not for some faraway state, not from some faraway place. You know, you're not looking for salvation and freedom, you know, when you pass away, or when your body's gone, or later in the future. You're looking for freedom, and you're looking for peace right here, right now. You want to be free from suffering right here, right now. And so we need to turn our hearts to God and love. We need to see what is real today in order for us to be free. And so this is where you find peace. Anyway, beautiful souls, what I want to do is I'm going to pull 3 cards to see what it is that Spirit wants to communicate to us, and see what can we add to this message. Spirit, clear and concise message for the greatest and highest good of the collective. What are we needing to know? Thank you so much for this message. Please protect me and the viewer as we channel this message for the greatest and highest good. Thank you so much, viewer, for allowing me to channel today. Temperance. So what does this mean? Temperance is all about healing. Temperance is all about balance. We're talking about equal reciprocity, and I feel like what you put out into this world comes straight back at you, okay? And it has to. That is law. We're not free of law if we're ignorant to it. And so the law of the universe is, if you're putting out judgment, if you're putting out projections, you're creating your own suffering. Your world is full of sin or suffering. That's what it means to be full of sin and suffering. Okay, but when we engage with love and light, and we start to experience what true love and light feels like, you know, there is no condition on love. There is no judgment when it comes to love. Okay, love doesn't have any of that. Love comes from the heart, from God. It is straight. It doesn't have perceptions. It doesn't have filters. Okay, and so I feel like this is really about you engaging with the world in a way that allows you to experience something that is healing, something that is more in line with what you want to experience here. So it's absolutely beautiful. And the fact that we have the temperance with the 2 cups, you know, of water, is like the emotions. And so we take action based on our emotions. And like I said, the emotions come after, you know, the thought. But if we're not driven by feeling, if we're not driven by beliefs and emotions, we don't take action. We could just see a thought and let it pass. But the minute we start to feed it with emotion, we get driven by this, you know, and that's when we take action. And so don't judge yourself based on thought. We all have thoughts. Thoughts happen. We can't suppress them, because what you resist persists, as I say here, you know, and what you fight against, you strengthen. So the more you fight against it, it becomes bigger in your mind. Allow the thought to be, okay? You're not choosing it. The thought just comes in your mind. And so the thought comes in your mind, and you can observe it as a neutral, you know, observer, and see it pass. But the minute you start to feed your emotion into it, you know that you've already sort of crossed over into the ego land, you know. And so you want to really listen to your emotions, because your emotions are always going to tell you where your mind's at. So if they're positive emotions, great, you know, although there is such a thing as ego when we overfill it with a desire. And so we need to remain in a balanced state of knowing what is happiness and peace, and what is sort of attaching to a desire, an external desire. Okay, just as we would if we are experiencing suffering. And so suffering is going to look a lot like anger, jealousy, judgment, sadness, separation, loss, you know, a feeling of jealousy, or whatever it is we're feeling. And so the feeling is going to come when we know that our thought was in an illusion or not. Okay, so it's a clue to correct our thoughts when our emotions are involved. And this will allow for the healing. This will allow for the healing of energy over time, so that you can become balanced, so you can engage in your world in a more balanced way. Okay, so Take a look at your emotions. And so if you're feeling any of those contracting emotions, it's time to understand you're the one generating that with your thought. No one's creating that or putting that upon you. Okay, so that's a clue for you. So let's see, Spirit, what else does the collective need to know? And some people will say, well, I can control my thoughts. Look, I want to think of a bologna sandwich. I'm going to go get a bologna sandwich. And so you have free will to influence your thoughts. Okay, so you could definitely influence, but when you're hungry, it's not like you're going to look through, like I say, a list of catalog and be like, what is my thought? I'm going to think of a thought of me being hungry, or I'm going to think of a thought of, you know, the loss of, I don't know, this experience that I had. It just comes within you, you know, but you could choose to apply whatever you want to that thought, or you could easily just observe it and watch it go. The power is yours. You're an extension of the Creator. You have a lot of power here. Don't give your power away to your mind. You know, your mind is a horrible master, but an excellent servant. And so you want the mind to sort of allow it to do its thing without, you know, resisting it, but not chase it, not give it power, not feed it with emotion and beliefs. So Spirit, what else does the collective need to know? So we have the Ace of Pentacles. This is talking about manifestation. And look, this is the hand coming from the cloud, which is the universe giving you a manifestation. And so this is talking about things appearing, you know, from the universe. And we could talk about law of attraction and simplify it and say, since I thought it and I manifested it, and so I want to think positive thoughts in order for me to manifest positivity, which is a very, very watered down way to engage with the creation. And it's okay if we have beliefs in the law of attraction, you know, because a lot of people come into spirituality from the position of the law of attraction, but it isn't necessarily how it works. You know, it's not the more you sort of have that thought, the more the thing is going to sort of appear. Like, yes, you have to have the feeling and you have to have the belief, but it's knowing when you're dealing with reality to see that opportunity as it is. So if I am in ego and illusion and I'm projecting and the universe is handing me this, but what, like the analogy I used of the rock, what am I seeing? Am I seeing an actual opportunity? Am I seeing reality as it is? And so the universe puts reality in front of you. You're not God. You're not, you know, making the rock. Okay, but what you are doing is you're projecting what you want to see in that rock. And so the universe is going to put in front of you opportunity, always a bunch of opportunity. It's up to you to choose which path. Do I want to choose the path of the opportunity sucking and lack and separation and creating a bad experience? Or do I want to see the opportunity in front of me as a blessing, you know, an experience, a choice here to choose love, to see this as something here that's beautiful. You know, let's choose to see the beauty here, and then you see reality as it is. And so what is this manifestation that the universe is giving to you? Is giving you a manifestation, and you can engage one of two ways. It's up to you, you know. So yes, the universe creates this beautiful reality, but you are an extension creating what it is that you experience from that, in which the universe is giving to you. And so if you're out seeking out there a different manifestation and the universe is giving you that Ace of Pentacles, you might be so blind in your illusion that you miss it. And you don't experience love, or you don't experience that seed of something that could be absolutely beautiful and life-changing. And seeds turn into trees, and trees bear fruit. But you're too busy chasing an illusion. And so what manifestation is the universe giving to you? Because in the present moment, the universe is all abundant. It's presenting you with manifestation right here, right now, always. What's it giving to you right now? What do you see in front of you right now? It's your choice. Okay, it's not hidden from you. It's not coming when you pray hard enough or when you wish hard enough. It's happening right now. This is the only thing that's real, is what's happening right here, right now, in this present moment. There is no other time. And so what do we have? We have the Emperor. Final card. So what's the Emperor? Divine masculine energy. This is Aries energy. This is all about self-empowerment. And so what Spirit wants me to talk about is the doership, okay? So when we feel like we're doing something, we feel empowered, we feel like we're the ones creating something, you know, and so there's an illusion here when it comes to doership. And this is that I am the one, you know, the little me, the I, separate from God, is creating these things. I'm upkeeping this world. I am doing all these things. It's me. It's me. And God is saying no. God is saying no. You empower yourself when you align yourself with engaging with reality, seeing that pentacle for a pentacle, for the love and light. You know, that's how you get empowered. And then, like I said, you can manifest the tree and the fruit. So now you are sort of a doer in regards to your free will to see that pentacle as a seed that grows into a tree or fruit, or you have the free will, or you could be disempowered and stick to the illusion. The power is yours, although you aren't a doer. You're not creating that pentacle from the sky. You know, this emperor could become very convinced that he is the doer of his world. You know, and again, like I said, with the law of attraction, it gets us into spirituality where we think we have the power to do and create our world. And in a way, you kind of do, because when you're completely in a higher state of consciousness, you're out of the illusion. You can deal in reality. You can make choices based on your response, like I said, from the heart. And so we're changing and we're navigating how we respond. We're no longer triggered. We're no longer, you know, spending weeks, months, hours, however long to stay in illusion, to attach yourself to something and have a different experience. And so the experience is yours to experience. And so once you transcend past the story and the illusion, you have a complete different experience. This emperor is now growing a tree from that pentacle and eating the fruit, whereas someone else might not have even seen that pentacle from the sky because they were too busy arguing. There was no pentacle there. They didn't see it as an opportunity. And so, yes, we are the emperor. Yes, we are empowered, you know, but where does the empowerment lie? You know, and this masculine energy is all about thought, because masculine is the mind and the feminine is the heart, which is the feeling. And so the mind has to come into the heart, and we have to understand that we can't use the mind in order to control the heart, in order to control the feeling. Okay, so we can allow the mind, which is a part of the body. Okay, it's not us. We are not the mind. We are not the body. We are not our feelings. Okay, we are consciousness. We're a being. And so when we observe the mind doing what it's doing, okay, we then know that we have power over this mind. And so wisdom could lie in the mind when we are aware of where our mind is at. But if we are unaware and we let the mind run the show, then the ego and then the shadow attribute of this emperor runs wild. And so the shadow attribute of the emperor becomes very egoic and very stuck in his ways, and it could become a dominant ruler. Okay, and this isn't good for anyone. Okay, this isn't good for anyone. And so the empowered emperor knows where his power lies. And so how do we use our mind is totally up to us. And so when we talk about mind-heart coherence, it is about, is the wisdom of the mind now based in the heart, based in reality? Or is the wisdom of the mind now coming from a projection of a trauma of the past? We need to know the difference. You know, and the only way to know the difference is to raise our consciousness, because like I said, if we're at the same level of the mind that created the trauma or that's in the trauma, we'll never see past it. And so we hang on to the trauma. We hang on to that belief. We're not rising above in consciousness to see from a different perspective, to observe that that in which we were giving life to, that we believed to be true, was just an experience, a projection, a perception, you know, from the past experience that created suffering. And so this is where we're shedding the light. Okay, so that's it. That's what I wanted to communicate. Beautiful 3 cards from Spirit. Thank you, Spirit, so much for this message. I love you guys very much. I know this was a little bit different than I usually do. I hope this helps you find peace in your heart. I love you guys very much, and blessed be. I'll see you at the next one. Bye.